If your gifted student struggles, you are not alone, and it's not your fault. Hi, my name is Nina. I'm a licensed educator in Illinois, and I help parents and teachers understand and support gifted children. Whether you're a parent navigating your child's unique needs or a teacher looking to support high ability learners, you'll find strategies, tools, and encouragement to help gifted students thrive. Today, we'll be diving into the topic of twice exceptional students. Now, these are students that are both gifted and have some kind of learning difference or disability. There's three main categories that 2E students generally fall into, and then stay tuned till the end for some other difficulties that often aren't diagnosed super early on, but can create some significant challenges for students who are gifted. So the first one is ADHD. This is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. This is extremely common among the gifted population. Students often show really intense focus and interests on certain topics, but they struggle with things like organization. Sometimes they're mistaken for being lazy or having oppositional or defiant behavior. It can look like they're disorganized, messy, and they struggle with time management. This might look like a child that knows all the answers on a test, but they just can't do the test because the clock is ticking too loud and the landscape company just showed up to mow the lawn and blow all the leaves out of the way, and the kid next to them is tapping their pencil, and the teacher's shuffling papers or typing at her desk. And then the teacher says, "Okay, students, turn in your test," and they have a meltdown because they knew all the answers on a test, but they just couldn't focus to even write their name down. So that's what it might look like for a child that has ADHD and is gifted. Some things that you can do is provide extended time on tests or an alternate location. Sometimes providing background music. Ask your students, do they want background music? Maybe some nice classical music playing in the background while they work. For some students, noise-canceling headphones can be a game changer. Also, providing a visual schedule and movement breaks can be really helpful. If you're a teacher, and your student is interested in a certain topic, like let's say they're really into dinosaurs, find opportunities to make them the expert. Maybe on Fridays you have a show and tell where they get to come in and talk about their passion or whatever they're interested in. Or maybe you'll be teaching a history unit on archaeology. You could have them be the expert in the classroom and share about their interest in dinosaurs and how it relates to what the class is learning. The second category that 2E or twice exceptional students oftentimes fall into, specific learning disabilities. This can include things like dysgraphia, dyslexia, or dyscalculia. Now, dyslexia is when they struggle with reading, so it might look like a student that has good verbal skills and vocabulary and comprehension, but they might have a hard time decoding and reading fluently. They might mix up letters and sounds, and so that might make it hard for them to read fluently, but when they listen to a text read to them, they have really great comprehension and vocabulary skills. Dysgraphia is when a student struggles to write. So a teacher might look at a student's writing sample and not be able to fully understand what they wrote or what they were trying to say. They might have trouble holding a pencil. They might have a hard time with fine motor skills. And imagine how frustrating that would be if you're a brilliant child and you have brilliant ideas, but you just can't figure out the pencil thing. That would be so frustrating. So these kids are really brilliant, but they're just not able to show it on paper. Maybe they can write, but they write very slowly. Their brain works really fast, but their hand isn't working as fast. So some things that you can do is use technology, use assistive technology like voice to text to help them communicate their ideas without needing to physically write them down. Something else that you can do to keep them challenged is to let them listen to above grade level text to continue to build vocabulary comprehension. Now, the other way that specific learning disabilities present themselves is with dyscalculia, and this is really showing up in math. So these children might have advanced reasoning or vocabulary skills when it comes to math, but they could struggle with basic academic mechanics. They might have a hard time memorizing facts, they might have a hard time understanding place value or grasping concepts like time. Some things that you can do to help these students is to provide manipulatives and provide positive reinforcement for their effort, not just the final product. This really helps students overcome their perfectionism. Something else that you can try when you have a student with a specific learning disability and they're gifted is to be really intentional with group work. Be mindful to pair them with a child that might be strong in an area that they're not strong in. For example, let's say your twice exceptional student is really great with mental math and verbally explaining things. You can pair them with a child that might have really strong writing skills so that they can work together, build each other's confidence and self-esteem. Something else that you can consider if you're a teacher is for final projects or big summative assignments, providing students opportunities to choose how they want to show what they learned. So this might mean a student might choose to give a speech or write a song instead of writing an essay. And so they might want to perform in front of their classmates and speak what they learned or make a PowerPoint presentation and present it as opposed to writing an essay. So something to keep in mind is that specific learning disabilities aren't a limit to intelligence. They just change how a child might be able to express what they know. The third most common twice exceptionality that we see in the gifted population is autism spectrum disorder, especially level 1 high functioning autism. These students are great with noticing patterns, they have a really good memory, very honest, and they can focus very deeply. Many twice exceptional students that are on the autism spectrum are intellectually advanced, but they might struggle with other things like making friends or communicating with people. They might have a hard time with being flexible when schedules change or something unexpected comes up. They might have a hard time with sensory regulation. They might want to roll around on the floor to get that sensory input, or this might look like a student that needs to run around and flap their arms. They also might have a hard time understanding nuanced situations, things where it's not always a black or white kind of situation, or if there isn't just one correct answer, that might be really hard for them to understand and embrace. Something else that we sometimes see in twice exceptional students who have autism is they might have a meltdown if it's just too loud in the classroom, or if another classmate doesn't follow the routines and procedures exactly. That might be really hard for them to overcome and process. So noise is really big, and if the lights are too bright, those are all things that can just be overstimulating. These students really thrive on deep and oftentimes very specific interests like outer space. Some things that you can do to help students who are twice exceptional and have autism is to have a very consistent routine, to provide sensory breaks as they're needed, to be very clear with expectations for whatever you're doing. Something else that might really help is to celebrate their interests. That could help build confidence and social skills. If they're really interested in a specific thing, see if you can create an opportunity for them to share that interest with their peers. Some other things to keep in mind. The first one is masking. Disabilities can sometimes mask or cover up the giftedness and might make the child look pretty average, or giftedness can mask the disability. So they might be doing just well enough academically to make it hard to justify getting them any extra support or an IEP or anything like that. Other things to consider that gifted students oftentimes struggle with is anxiety. If they're highly sensitive and they are struggling with perfectionism, that can cause frequent and really intense anxiety. And anxiety can sometimes mask giftedness. It could look like inattention or avoiding tasks. The other thing to look out for is speech and language disorders. It might look like a child knows what they want to say, but they might struggle to get it out clearly. If a child has a lisp or some other type of speech impediment, it can be really frustrating for that child when they have some great ideas to share, but their classmates or peers don't understand what they're saying. Some other things to keep in mind are students who are learning another language. Maybe they just came from a different country, they're learning English, and they might be gifted, but because they don't know English, they might not be able to express that clearly. Also, students that are going through any kind of trauma, whether it's something going on at home or in their community, that can also mask giftedness and great potential. Something to keep in mind is that twice exceptional students are not lazy, they're not broken, they're just different. These children live at this interesting intersection of incredible potential, but also real challenges. And because their strengths and struggles sometimes mask each other, twice exceptional students are often misunderstood and undersupported. They might not be behind enough academically, so they might not get referred for special therapies or supports. But if you're a teacher and you're noticing some of these things in your students, it's important to advocate for them. If your child is twice exceptional, or you have a student in your classroom who's twice exceptional, what are some things you've been doing to support them? Let me know in the comments below. Together, we can build classrooms and homes where every kind of child is understood.